Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to today's edition of Read T-Fuss, where I take old stories I've narrated and update them to modern audio standards. This particular story is called Honorary Human, written by Iceman0486. Vahag sipped at the violet brew the Taishan barkeep had brought him, relaxing back in his chair, and enjoyed the quiet of the lazy afternoon. At least he did, until the quiet of the afternoon was interrupted by someone looking for him. Trying to appear casual, the young Malag looked so young to the old soldier, but he supposed the pup was old enough to be let out alone. He smelled like a reporter. The reporter stood nervously before Vahag's table and cleared his throat. "Sergeant Vahag," the reporter struggled to create the first unfamiliar word.
"What gave me away?"
the heavily muscled, scarred and fur-dyed veteran asked dryly. The reporter's ears drooped a bit, and Vahag let his mouth loll open a bit in amusement. Draining the last of his brew and heaving a great sigh, he asked, "What do you want?"
"Well, Foundation Day is coming up."
Vahag nodded, making an "and" gesture with his paw.
"I want to tell you a story, Sergeant Vahag,"
the reporter said quickly, becoming more animated and appearing more like a pup than before.
"The first non-human accepted into Terran Marines, and it was a Malag. You're a hero to many. But the facts are, sparse."
Vahag chuckled, the rumbling, growling laugh of his race. The reporter with a gift for understatement. How novel.
"I suppose an old soldier could be convinced to share some war stories, but—"
He looked with a calculated moroseness into the bottom of his empty mug, allowing his ears to droop slightly. A few gestures to the barkeep, and the pup slid into the booth opposite Vahag, and shortly a fresh mug appeared near his elbow. The reporter produced a small recording device. Vahag noticed that it was a human-made Malag-adapted model, and set it on the table.
"I am Grand Satch."
He raised his muzzle up and to the right, a youth giving an elder proper respect. Vahag took another drink and licked his chops.
"Well, where should I start, Gran?"
"The beginning, Battlemaster. How you came to join the humans and came to lead a unit of them."
Resting his elbow on the table, Vahag settled into a comfortable position to launch into his tale.
"I landed on Talon with my battle pack. We'd been mobilized too quickly, and there wasn't enough air support."
Vahag let out a short bark of a chuckle.
"There wasn't enough of anything in those early days. The Russian liked Talon, and they wanted it for their own. So we were part of the Council's objection to that idea."
Shaking his head, Vahag sighed.
"I've been told that it goes this way everywhere. A quick, decisive war. Over in a few months, and then declare victory. 14 months in, 85% of my battle pack is dead, and our positions were roughly the same as they'd been when we started."
"And that's when the humans joined in?" Gran asked excitedly.
Vahag shook his head.
"Not yet, pup. You're getting ahead of me. The Russian pushed us out of some civilian areas, and they took slaves. There were humans in those civilian areas, and, yeah, that's about the time the Terran Federation got involved. Important thing for you to understand there is that my battle pack, after fighting around the cities, was down to about 5% strength. 51 soldiers left of the original battle pack. That's when the Russian landed more troops, intending to have the world secured before the Terran fleet could drop in."
Closing his eyes against the memories of those blood-soaked days, Vahag remained quiet for a moment. When he heard the pup open his mouth to ask another question, Vahag's eyes snapped open and he continued. "The day the Terrans landed, there were 3 of us left. By the time they fought through to my position, I was it." Vahag was silent now, thinking of those desperate days, the agonizing and ultimately futile wait for reinforcements. When help had arrived, it was not the familiar yips and howls of another battle pack. It was the harsh cries of the human orders, not the erratic thumping and scraping of paws and claws, but the rhythmic thumping of men marching. Their smells had been wrong, but they were warriors as much as Vahag had been. He shook himself and continued speaking, mentally thanking the reporter for letting him sit with his thoughts. "After over a year of fighting over the godforsaken rock, the back half fighting on the defensive guerrilla fight, I knew the area like the back of my paw. The humans brought up a translator.
and I began to show them the twists and turns of the population centers.
Is that when they put you in charge of one of their assault squads?
You're getting ahead of me again, Pop. Now, humans can't see at night as well as we can, but they are good at night combat. Really good. So using my knowledge of the terrain and their night expertise, we hit back. It was still a tough fight. You ever see a Russian warrior cast up close, kid?
Gran shook his head, and Vahag sighed.
They're a sight, 2.5 meters tall and clocking in at around 260 kilos. Not too bright, though, and the humans knew how to handle them. Turns out they plan how to fight most everything they run into.
Even us,
Gan seemed somewhat put off by the idea.
Especially us,
Vahag confirmed, and Gan's ears laid back against his head.
But they're our allies, Gan protested. We should be able to trust our...
Vahag leaned forward, and let his grin become more threatening.
It takes a good ally to be willing to point out your weaknesses. Towards the end of the war, I spent a lot of time talking to the brass about theories and plans. They worked me through how they would go about attacking us, pointing out weaknesses in both doctrine and physical defenses. We are stronger for their attention.
I don't suppose I've ever thought of it that way,
Gan said, somewhat chagrined.
But it still seems to be an awful risky thing to do with a new ally.
Humans don't see it that way. At least the ones that are warriors don't. They're a pragmatic people. We have a lot to learn from them in that regard.
Vahag shrugged.
But you're here for war stories. The fighting untold came to a head in the old capital city of the planet. We took more casualties there than in the rest of the campaign, but it only took us a week to push the Russian out and force a surrender from them once their fleet got kicked out of real space. The CO of the Terrans I was with, Colonel Mulvane, gave me the option of tagging along with them as they moved to engage the Russian elsewhere, or letting me head home with the civilians.
A baser rumble that made the surface of the beer ripple escaped from the veteran.
I had the memory of my battle pack in my mind. I went with the humans to fight more.
Taking another long drink from his mug, Vahag gathered his thoughts. He hadn't told the entire story before. Ancestors. He didn't remember the entire story. The battles seemed to run together now. So many. Now long ago.
Humans don't fight like we do. When we deploy a battle pack, that is where the battle pack is. In 6 months, we conducted 13 combat drops and saw more than 30 firefights.
Gan gaped at the number.
And then, Pop, they sent us on vacation.
What?
Gran asked.
A vacation? In the middle of a war? They stopped their attacks?
They didn't even slow the pace.
But they sent
me and my unit, and they cycled more men in. Humans have fought wars lasting decades. Did you know that they have a war in their history called the 100 Years' War? Anyway, they have figured out and perfected the art of making sure that their men get the rest they need.
Tapping his chest and arms, the veteran indicated the dyed portions of his fur.
That's where I got most of these. They gave us R&R and Nephrosis 3, and I have no idea where the squad found the fur dye. There couldn't have been more than 50 Melag on the planet. So I have no idea what the female did in her free time. I was told that after that many combat drops, I was officially a Terran Marine, whether I was human or not.
Leaning over to inspect the dyes, Gan asked,
I recognize this. It's a battle pack insignia. What is this? It looks like some kind of bird there.
It is the insignia of the Terran Marines, which they adapted from one of their leading nations before they truly had spaceflight.
Shaking his head, Gan asked the question many Melag had asked him before.
Why get these things permanently dyed into your fur?
It's a human thing. As far as shrines and monuments go, it is a pathetically temporary one. But I will always have the shrine to my fallen packmates here with me. It's a good tradition. Though the humans lack fur, so their preferred method is staining their skin with ink.
After this vacation, they put you in charge of one of their squads, after you were marked as one of theirs.
Do you know what a dog is, Pup?
The reporter seemed taken aback by a seeming non-sequitur and thought for a moment.
I don't think so.
They're quadrupedal carnivores that co-evolved alongside humans. One of 2 common carnivores that they keep as pets, companions and helpers.
They keep not 1 but 2 carnivores as pets.
Those are the most common, but there are others. Humans will adopt anything, Vahog nodded. There are some thinkers that believe that without dogs, humanity would have developed along a different path. That the dog's ancestors, the wolf, did a great deal to domesticate the human in the beginning. Taking another drink, he continued. Anyway, humans have taken dogs with them to war for, well, millennia at this point. Corporal Ramirez, my translator, somewhere along the way got put down in their official records as my handler, not my translator, Vahog shrugged. I think it started as a bit of a practical joke on the part of the quartermaster.
I don't understand,
the reporter began, and Vahog cut him off, smiling. Our species, pup, strongly resemble wolves and dogs. The quartermaster thought that it would be amusing to present me with my own collar and leash.
Gan's lips peeled back in a snarl. I'm not sure, sir, but I feel that might be insulting.
Vahog barked a laugh. Oh, it was. So I took a crap in his bunk and chewed up one of his boots.
Gan gaped at the war hero, the dignified veteran of a dozen campaigns before he joined the human military, where he had won further accolades. The one Malark every young would-be warrior looked up to. You what?
You heard me, Vahog said, leaning back into his seat with an air of great dignity. It was widely decided throughout the battalion that I had the better of the exchange. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. Corporal Ramirez somehow got put in as my handler rather than my translator, likely for the quartermaster's little joke. However, he also put me down as the animal in question. Now, I told you that humans have a long tradition of dogs going to war alongside them. Well, part of that tradition is that the handler's dog is one step higher in rank than the handler is to ensure that care is taken when handling the animal, since any abuse from the handler results in serious military crime. So, since Ramirez was a corporal, I was promoted to sergeant.
With a slow, deliberate hand, Gant turned off the recorder placed before him. You mean to tell me that the humans made you the commander of one of their squads by accident?
Vahog grinned at him.
You mean that the respect the Terrans gave the Melag was a bureaucratic mix-up? This is the event that opened negotiations for the foundation of the Federation.
Gan was getting faster now and rising in volume, and Vahog couldn't help but laugh. The lieutenant knew, the captain knew, the colonel knew, ancestors. I'd be surprised if the admiral didn't know that I was no simple dog. Vahog looked at the young reporter and narrowed his eyes. Did you do any research in the human media about me? When Gan shook his head, he received a reproving look. I know I gave them a few interviews. They wanted me to do some kind of tour of their more populated worlds.
Why?
Remember when I told you that they do things differently? Well, guess where they put their best warriors? Their most decorated veterans.
Gan paused, then answered with the air of someone who knew that they were saying something wrong. In an elite unit?
Vahog chuckled. I asked what the humans did, not what we did. No, you will find them well behind the lines. You'll find them in their officers' schools and in their training camps. They take their best and have them training the next generation of soldiers. Their green soldiers come along with more training than many veteran Melag, and it shows. Their officers are flexible of mind and do not fear to act independently. When a platoon of Marines come upon a lone warrior, they did not ask for additional orders. They scooped me up and continued their advance. When I demonstrated that I could be an asset, they did not wait for clearance from their battle master to engage the enemy. They went to battle.
Sounds reckless.
It's what they're trained for. Vahog set his empty mug on the table and waved the barkeep off. Pup, Gan, I was a ghost before I met them. I was ready to chase my packmates into the Shadowlands. Humans helped me learn to live, and helped to teach us how to avoid the mistakes we made. They are far from perfect, and we have as much to teach them as they do us. But without them, I'd be dead, and most of the civilians of Tolm would be as well.
So I take it that you'll support this federation they keep talking about. The next step?
Vahog tapped the final die depiction on his chest. It showed the wolfish outline of a Melag, and within, the outline of a human. After the war, after the Russian sued for peace, once the humans in our battle packs had taken 13 of their worlds from them, Admiral Shanzu told me that with my enlistment in the Terran Marines, that I was an honorary human.
that I had the rights of a citizen of the Terran Federation waiting for me if I wished them. He looked down at his paws and sighed. I don't know that our people could have done that, but as the first human Melag, I hope that we can learn. End of story. I would like to thank our T5 members and patrons, Caspar Arnholtz, John Creighton, Vidmori, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.